Hey there, sweet friends. I hope you're well. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. For today's project, we are going to work continuing on the theme from last week. I shared a folio with pockets that I created from a bag from the Dollar Tree. And in the comments, a friend suggested that we could make that also with cardstock. And so I want to explore that with the different techniques that we'll have to use in order to get the similar outcome. Now, this is going to be the project that we work on today. And as I mentioned, this is going to be a pocket folio. So we're going to have lots of places to put our memories and our journaling. And this happens to be a beautiful fall theme. So I think that is perfect for this time of year. Now, this is also going to be the project that I shared in last week's video as a sample. I finished it out, and then I'm going to flip through that at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But I think this is a fun variation on that project, and it makes it so that you can work with any collection that you have. Just simply change out the cardstock and the theme, and it will be perfect for that. So if that sounds good to you, then stick around and we'll make it together. I'm working with the Simple Stories Cider and Donut collection today. This is the 12 by 12 size, and I did pick this up from scrapbook.com. I'll drop that in the description, and I'll add a link if it's still available. But I think this is an absolutely perfect collection for fall. The colors are warm and rich, and it does have those sweet, whimsical images that Simple Stories always adds, as well as quite a few cut aparts and tags in different sizes. So you're going to be able to find plenty of inserts for the pockets that we create. In the original project I shared last week, we did use those bags from the Dollar Tree, and as requested, I'm going to be making this with cardstock. I am going to create this with the scrap paper here so that you can see the measurements, but you will want to use cardstock that coordinates better with your project. Now, because we are not limited in size from that bag, we can choose however big or small we want this to be. And I like the idea of having it a 6 high by 4 wide album. And that is because I'll be able to include a lot of the cutter parts there. And then also I can get the best use out of my 12 by 12 pattern papers. So the first thing I want to do is take my cardstock that is cut to be 8 by 8 to my scoreboard, and I want to put my first score in at 4. Then I'll flip that around and add the second score line in at 6. And so we're going to have a finished book dimension of 6 high by 4 wide. When we flip up this bottom section here, this is going to become our pocket, and you also want to fold on that center section. I'm going to bring this back to that scoreboard with my score on the right-hand side, and you see that lines up with that 4. I want to come in with my scoring tool and score that at 3 7/8. And I'm only going to go as far as that pocket score. So up to that line, but don't go over. I'm going to mark this with a pen just to make it a little bit easier to see. Now, the reason we're doing this is because we're not able to utilize the gusseted section of the bag from our original design to be used as pockets. So we have to put our own pockets in here. Now, because we have cardstock instead of the finished edge of the bag, we're going to need to add another pattern paper to the front of the pocket so that it's finished all the way around. And so I cannot come back in and just nip off the corner like I did with the original book. I need to be very specific about where that comes off so that I can get a measurement of what remains, and that is what I'll use for my pattern paper. So you would come in here. I did mine on my guillotine cutter and just cut that little tiny section out. You see, now when we flip it over to fold our pockets, we have a set dimension here. And of course, I wouldn't draw on that if it was my finished project, but I just wanted you to see that little bit taken out makes a world of difference in how easy it is to cover the front of the pocket. So now I want to switch to the cardstock that I chose for matching that cider and donut collection. This is a beautiful chocolate brown cardstock. I wanted to show this label. This is from Luxe Paper. I did get this from Amazon. It was just less than $17 for a pack of 50, but it is well worth it in my opinion. It is so thick and sturdy and nice. It scored well and it cut cleanly and it did not crack when I scored it. So that is something to keep in mind. It's a little bit of an investment. However, I think it really is worth it if you want to add that sturdiness and stability to your album. And for my project today, I have 3 of these. So we're going to wind up with 6 pockets. Now you can make some decisions since you are making your own base, how many different sections. And if you want to change them up, instead of just having one, you can have a variation. So that's what we're going to do today. And so we're going to keep with that cardstock measurement. And when we add our pattern paper, it is going to measure 5 7/8 by 3 7/8, and that's going to give us a nice border of that beautiful cardstock. And I do want to finish the insides of these pockets before we adhere that flap so that it's easier to get that in. And I want my 2-page layouts to match, but you don't have to do that. If it makes sense to you to get through your stash, you can mix and match as little or as much as you want. And the important thing is just to get through that paper. So I have the inside finished now. It makes sense to me to cover the front of the pockets, or what will be the front when we fold it, before we add glue and all that, so that it's easier to get this flat down onto the surface. So I'm just going to take the offcuts from the patterns that I'm using, and I'm going to wind up with a pattern paper that is 1 7/8 by 3 3/4. Remember, we took that notch out of the middle, so that's just going to be a little bit narrower than our full page, and that's going right down in the middle. We're going to get all those beautiful borders, and that also helps to keep those busy patterns separate so that they look nice and layered. Now, as we did in the original project, I want to fold these flaps up, and then I'm going to add my Tombow just right here on the edge. I'm going to keep it in from the edge a little bit and be careful that when I push it down for contact, it's not going to squeeze out the side. I'm just going to bring that bag in so that I don't accidentally get any glue on my work surface. Is that Tombow. I'm going to put it on both sides here. And then fold that over to seal the pocket. So you'll want to apply pressure until that glue sets up. It would be helpful also to have a heavy book or something on hand that you can add to the top of this so that you can continue to work along. Once you've got it set, you can even fold that and put pressure on this one side. I would do that for all 3 of these pocket sections, and then have your book ready and just set that until you're sure that it is well adhered. So I've got my book sat on that pocket section, and in the meantime I can work with the connector. So rather than having 4 pocket sections together like in our original project, I do want to just have a connector, and this is going to provide me with some larger pages. So if I want to put bigger pictures in that don't fit into the pocket, I'm going to have room for that. And this measurement is going to be 6 high by 8 wide and scored at 4, and the measurement for the pattern paper will remain the same as it was when we put it inside the pocket. And I'm just going to utilize the A and B side of these patterns to get the best use out of that. You know, Simple Stories has many sheets that are the cut aparts, and so you're not always going to have as many pattern options, but I think it's fun to have those as inserts, so that is definitely worth it. Now I have these and I'll just press that in place. I'm using my double-sided adhesive for that. And before I came down to film, I did add my double-sided tape to either side of this connector, and I'm gonna utilize my 2 glue combo that will help me to adhere these together and make sure that they are very well secured. Because I have 3 pockets and 2 connectors, I'm gonna put those connectors in between, and so I'll just pull the backing from the tape, and then I'll add my Tombow. Then I'll bring these 2 sections together, keeping the bottom and the side straight and even. And then press down to get a good contact. Now that double-sided tape will hold it in place while the glue sets up, so we can continue to work along. So we have our first pocket section and our first connector added. I want to repeat that process with the next section. So I have another of the pockets, another of the connectors, and then the last page will have pockets as well. And I am also utilizing the A and B side of that pattern that I put on the pocket so that I don't have a geometric with the geometric, and that helps it to keep it from being too busy. So I'll just continue to add those sections in the same way, in the same process, until I have all of them together. As you can see, I have all of my sections added. So we're going to have 3 of the sections with pockets and 2 of the sections that have full-size pages. And then also off camera, I did add that back page. And so I want my plaid to be on the cover. I've also added a little bit of my double-sided tape here to hold my ribbon in place. And I'll just stretch this out and get it even. This is a beautiful brown plaid from a Really Reasonable Ribbon that is so perfect for this fall theme album. And so I'm just going to finish the front with the same pattern as the back. This is going to not require additional layers, I think, because I have a large focal image. I had to pull that a little closer to myself so that I could see over top. It's a little bit hard to see on that darker cardstock, and I just wanted to make sure that I had that positioned where I wanted. Now I'm going to add a die cut doily here so that I can break up a little bit of that busy pattern, and then I'll top it with a tag that was from the cut apart sheet. I use my die that has a stitched edge detail so that I can make this a little bit smaller and then also have a nice finished look. Now I did add that to 110-pound cardstock to make it a little more sturdy. I popped it up on spacers. There's an eyelet here and then also a little bit of a natural twine going through, and I'm going to add that fairly close to the top because I have some flowers and not a lot of room to add them. So let's add this here, and then I'll show you. This is a pretty small arrangement that I have created with some glitter leaves and then regular foliage, some netting, and twine. I've got a couple of chrysanthemums here, and this is an earth tone from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I think this just fills in this space so well and gives it a lot of detail, kind of anchors the bottom of the book as well. And I'm going to add that with hot glue. Part of this is landing on the base itself, and some of it is coming up over the top of the raised tag. So this is going to give us a lot of nice dimension. So I'm going to add those inserts now, and as I mentioned, I'm going to use those cut aparts from the collection. I've got a tag and a 3x4 for each of these pockets. So remember that we have 6 going through, and we're going to have lots of places to add these inserts. Now, of course, with the Simple Stories collection, they do have it as a tag on the back as well, and then you can have room for your journaling. So that makes it very nice so that you can add all of the details that you want to go along with your pictures. And so I'm just going to mix and match these as I go along. Now, something to consider when you're choosing whether you want to have a bag album to use as your base or create your own with cardstock. So I would say one of the benefits to using that bag is the ease and convenience of utilizing that gusseted area for your pockets. And so it went much faster to work on that, and I didn't have to finish the tops of the pockets because it was already a pattern or a solid, and so that was nice as well. Now I also think that it was a better value because all these different layers of cardstock do add up. So if you can get that bag for $1.25, then you're coming out ahead on that, and it will be easier. The benefit to creating your own is that you're going to be able to have the exact size that you want, and then also add those separate sections. Remember, we said we had 2 different variations in here, and so you can really personalize it however you like. And also, you will be able to create these and not be limited to the variety of bags that you find at the store. So when I went, I remember that they didn't have a holiday bag out at the time, and I wanted to use it. So I had to use a floral and then add holiday accents to it. So they're a little bit limited to what they have available. But as I said, it was easier to put it together, and I think a little bit more cost effective that way. But I think in all, I would probably choose to make them with this as well. And so one or the other did not win out. They had certain attributes that made it appealing for certain circumstances. So this is going to be our Grateful album. I do want to add my finishing touches. So I will, of course, add my charms here and then a vintage button over top, and I'll put those on with hot glue. Then I'll utilize my Tombow one more time to adhere some pretty coordinated sequins in. So I'm going to put 1 up on top of that tag and then 2 down on the base, and that helps with our dimension. As I mentioned, we are working with inspiration from last week's Dollar Tree gift bag album, and I did show this one in last week's video, and it was just pieces. I didn't have it assembled, but it was my sample so that I knew that I had my measurements correct. So I just wanted to share with you how this one worked out. And of course, we're going to continue working on this paper bag album in the 4.5 by 4.5 size. And for this, we don't have connectors. We just have 4 of the pocket pages. So we're going to have 8 pockets. Now, I did pick this floral, and I wound up coordinating the butterfly library images that are printable from my shop, and I think it goes together perfectly. I did add that with my same finishing details, and then I popped that up with spacers so that I could build dimension. And then, as I mentioned, because we're using that gusseted portion of the bag, we didn't have to finish the top of these pockets. They already had some detail to them, and so I am just putting those printables down into the pockets. And I did print these, and I cut them out, and then I added that to heavy cardstock so that they will be nice and sturdy, and then I can add my details for my pictures and my memories to the back. And so I had 9 images on that printable, and I was able to use all of them, 8 in the pockets and one on the cover. Now remember, this is a little bit more glossy paper, so every step for that I did use my 2 glue combo to make sure that it's well adhered. And that's going to be it for our project today. I really hope that you like this version of that paper bag album. If you did, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. You can find links in the description. And as always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day. I thank you so much for watching. Bye.